Hello, welcome to another episode of Tigers, blah, 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 with me, Luke Flanagan, and Rich Walker is also here, my co-host. Hello.
You could try and sound a little bit more excited about it. Long day.
It's the bit I say the same every single week.
Jazz it up then.
Maybe next week.
He's like, hi.
Hey.
Try an accent.
No, I
Try
don't
an
like
accent.
that. I don't like it. We're City fans, we've got to start off a little bit negative. Even if we are building up to positives.
Yeah, if you insist.
I do.
Well, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
It's your train set, mate.
Your funeral. Yeah. Now then.
You all right?
I'll just say now then. Yeah, you.
Now then. Yeah, I'm fine, mate.
Good. Obviously, we're going to get started to talk about a few things from last couple of games. Look ahead to the next couple of games as well. So,
Yeah.
a couple of things before we start. Obviously, as usual, thanks to Hull City ladies who aren't playing right now, but hopefully will be come December. And fanhub_football, check them out. And then just to read out these patrons. So we have Aaron Bell, Mike, Alex O'Neill, Adam Brown, Ewan Jones, Danny Nichol, and Lewis Elliott has just joined. Welcome to Lewis Elliott.
Nice
new
one.
Patreon.
Now then, Lewis Elliott.
And we'll have Rich Fleming joining back soon as well. So, yeah.
He's still getting a shout out though, even though he's not a current member.
I know, but
no.
He's done a lot for us.
You can't be giving away freebies.
Yeah. No, he's a good lad, he's Rich. So I'll shout him out anyway.
I'm just kidding.
So thank you to everybody for that. We also, I don't know if you saw the social media recently. You worked on Rich, but I think you're on.
I've been bobbing on and off this week.
Bobbing on and off. We've passed 6,000 players.
Have we?
As of last week. Yep.
Wow.
So.
Don't people have anything better to do?
Clearly not. I'm not.
Well, no, I suppose not. It's lockdown, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Second lockdown.
Yeah. There are better podcasts out there, though. Like, you know. Well, I wouldn't want to listen to me 6,000 times.
Well, each to their own, I suppose.
Shouldn't you all be listening to Dan Snow's History Hit or something like that? You know, educate yourself.
If you want any podcast recommendations, just like DM Rich and he'll tell you loads of ones, because you listen to loads of different space ones and that.
Yeah, I love Space Me.
I love Space Me.
I love Space Me.
Proper love it and that.
Yeah, there are some good space ones out there, though.
Yeah, that's why I said.
Yeah, BBC did a great series, 13 Minutes to the Moon. Highly recommend that.
Yeah, you recommended that to me before, but I still haven't.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Well, you should.
Well, maybe I will. Anyway.
High spirits here on the podcast.
Indeed.
High spirits.
High spirits. Mainly because we won twice.
It helps.
We had 2 wins and we've picked a couple of positives, haven't we? So I'm going to let you go first with yours.
Yeah, okay. I think my positive is quite good as a starting point for a discussion on the win against Fleetwood on Saturday. And I wanted to pick out a couple of players, Alfie Jones and Richie Smallwood.
All right.
I don't know what you thought watching it, but I was quite interested in the way that we set up without the ball.
Mm.
The book on Grant McCann, as we all know, is that we play 4-3-3, and we shall never deviate from it. But I was quite interested on Saturday to note that when we didn't have possession, we looked a little bit 4-4-2.
Yeah, he dropped in. There were definitely two deep CDMs in there.
Yeah, definitely. But the other thing that I noticed was that Honeyman was staying further up the pitch.
Mm. It's
kind
like
of almost
10, wasn't he? It was almost like a second striker.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've just put the highlights on now, and he's pressing from his own half in a secondary striker position. Then you've got the 2 wingers tucked in 2 banks of 4.
Yeah.
James Scott and Malik Wilkes. It was a very conventional 4-4-2, but I thought within that, my 2 goods, as I say, Richie Smallwood and Alfie Jones, gave us a very solid platform to build upon. And I thought going into the game, one of the key areas that we would have to do well in to win it was in that central midfield because, at Highbury last month, Glenn Whelan and his midfield partner, his name escapes me at the moment, the two of them had got right on top of our midfield.
Paddy Madden.
Yeah, Paddy Madden, that's it. They were snapping into everything, didn't give us any time on the ball. They were quick onto second ball. So I thought before the game I'd be quite interested to see how we do there. And I thought that Jones and Smallwood were comfortable in the end. They didn't look like they were playing against the same midfield two that have been so much better than them a month ago. So I thought that they were well worth highlighting for praise. Everything, they were quick to pressure. They mopped up loose balls. They won second balls. I thought they were excellent, the pair of them. And it just gave us, along with that small tactical tweak that McCann was astute enough to make to prevent Fleetwood from, rampaging down the flanks like they did in the away game in the league. I thought that gave us a very solid platform upon which we were able to build. And really, once, we'd established that, it was a game that I thought we were quite comfortable in.
Yeah, I didn't particularly think that at any point Fleetwood were going to do the same as they did to us the previous game.
Didn't look likely, did it?
I did want to make one point that I don't know what you think about this. This isn't necessarily to do with Smallwood and Jones, but it's to do with the injury to Ched Evans.
Mm-hmm.
It was very early on.
Yeah, 2 minutes, wasn't it?
I think it was before 2 minutes. I think it's like 1.5 minutes. And obviously,
well, that's the second minute, technically.
Yeah, but you get me.
You pedant.
Yeah. It was really odd. Obviously, nobody wishes serious injuries on anybody. But with the history around that player, I couldn't help thinking how different it would have been if fans were in. And can you imagine just for 1 minute that game kicks off? We've got a lot of fans in the stadium. Say it's under normal circumstances. City are going really well, and people start to come back. And it's all supposing in it. I'm not saying that it would have been like this, but that challenge goes in from Elder, and it's a nothing challenge really. It's just come off worse.
Yeah, I don't
think there's any maliciousness in it.
Not at all. Not at all.
It didn't seem to, like, even Joey Barton to claim that there was, because he often stretches the truth, to breaking point a lot of the time. But he didn't start to say, "Oh, well, he's a disgrace because he's injured him." He didn't really say that. The one he complained was about with the Saunders one, just before half time. But you can imagine, can't you? Ched Evans hits the deck. I did see a lot of stuff on Twitter, but it would have riled up the Fleetwood players no end, I'm sure, if everyone would have cheered when he hits the deck. And it becomes a different game then. I just thought it was an interesting thought, how different it would have been, because it just went, everyone realised that it was a serious injury, and the balls came out and they just started warming up because they knew it was going to be 10 minutes by the time they got him off.
Yeah, you did wonder. I wondered watching that at the time, actually, because obviously Barton had, had his say in the week.
Bad blood.
Yeah, I mean, for me that was totally unnecessary.
Well, it's Joey Barton, mate.
Well, yeah, but use it as a motivating factor within the changing room. If that's how you want to operate, fair enough. I wouldn't have any truck with that. It's that there's an investigation going on into it.
Yeah.
And he's brought it into the public forum now.
Mm. I think it's slightly irresponsible from him to do that.
Well, it is. Whether anything comes of it or not, there's an insinuation there now still that he's, made a matter for public record.
I don't know if you listened to Burnsy afterwards, did you?
No, I didn't listen to Football Forum, no.
When I was in the press conference after, Burnsy asked McCann about that.
Oh, I listened to the McCann interview, yeah.
Yeah. And
he said he wasn't going to comment on it.
He said he wasn't going to comment on it, but Burnsy still pushed, and it took Dan Briggs to say we cannot comment on this. So it seems to me that there's something serious has been said.
I don't know. I don't really know. And until whatever goes on behind the scenes that they're looking into, I don't think anybody should know.
No.
So I couldn't understand.
I'm not really interested in what was said. But
no, I know you're not.
From...
But what I'm saying is that there's absolutely no need for Barton to start bringing that out into into his press conference.
Well, he can say what he wants in the changing room, can't he?
Of course he can. Yeah, and he's entitled to do that because obviously his players would have been privy to that information or to the allegation and the nature of what was said.
Yeah.
But then, having said that, you expect Fleetwood to come out with all guns blazing.
Yeah.
But that injury to Evans, it looked to me like it kind of
knocked the wind out of them, didn't it?
Yeah, if there was going to be anything like that about them, and it was hard to judge after a minute and a half, then it certainly wasn't there after the injury. It was like you say, it did take the wind out of the sails.
I did think as well that before that, McGuinness was at one half in the ref's ear. I think he felt he was being manhandled a little bit by that's number 32 for them at the back. I can't remember what his name is, but there was a bit of tussling, and McGuinness nearly went into the book after 1 minute because he was giving the ref all sorts of grief. So it maybe would have been a bit more spicy, and then as you say, that injury really disrupted things. And when City did score, it was after more like half an hour, but it was actually only like 15 minutes to 20 minutes of the game, wasn't
it? Yeah, and it was a very subdued opening, wasn't it? Once play had really got underway in earnest, it was very subdued, quiet.
I do think credit goes to McCann there for making the slight tweak, and he knew where we'd been overrun last time, and he wanted to make sure we doubled up over on the wings because they were going to try and play through the middle. He did say that afterwards as well, to be fair to him. He said, we knew what we needed to do as long as they didn't change what they did, and they didn't really, did they? They didn't really have any answer. It turned out to be a bit of a shitter for Fleetwood because they've lost two of the most influential goal scorers.
Yeah, like
Saunders
you say,
more than Evans, but
yeah, you don't want to see players injured. But I wasn't particularly sorry to see Saunders leave the pitch.
No, he tore as a new one at their place, didn't
he? Yeah, like you say, don't want to see it be a serious injury, but to see him go off the pitch having not had an impact on the game wasn't, from a City point of view, it wasn't that upsetting. Is he all right? I don't know. I've not looked into it.
They were both taken to hospital because of the nature of the injuries, but I think both of them were discharged pretty quickly.
Right.
So I think it may have been some sort of concussion thing for Evans. And Saunders got knocked out because he got smashed into Long, and Long just kind of stood there.
Yeah.
And then Long walked off, and Barton was walking on the pitch, giving the ref what for and everything else, seeing if his player was all right. But you should have seen the reaction from the Fleetwood bench. One of them just volleyed a water bottle into the middle of the pitch because he was so pissed off they didn't get the penalty. It was great to see. It was his assistant. I don't know who Barton's assistant was, but it was him, whoever it was. But
not a penalty for me anyway.
Sorry?
Wasn't a penalty for me anyway. So
no, not at all. I think, well, obviously, good win, and we go through to Stevenage.
It was a good win. One of the other positives about it for me was Reece Burke getting his first goal.
Yeah.
If we can just mention that quickly.
Yeah.
You know, how long's he been with us now? Is it 2.5 years now?
2.5 years, yeah.
And that's his first goal. For centre-back, you would expect maybe, 3 or 4 goals a season. But he's not one that's particularly dominant from set pieces.
No, he did well to score when he did as well.
Because
good delivery.
It was in a crowd of bodies as well. I mean, all right, they've let him go a little bit. But he's kind of had to twist his body to get it on target.
Position for him.
It was, yeah. In terms of his body position, it definitely was an unnatural one.
Yeah.
But it was pleasing to see him get a goal, and also to see him alongside Jacob Greaves. How much more assured Bert looks alongside Greaves.
They do not look like they've got a mistake in them, either of them. they're gonna have mistakes, but I always get
Well,
nervous.
they didn't on Saturday, did they?
No, not at all.
They looked very, very comfortable.
No, but
and
what?
and really, it could have been a different story to the game as well, because Greaves had two great chances, one in either half.
Yeah, I thought that first one in first half was in, but and there's one second half as well, which I think was a better chance
at the back stick. Yeah, it was a good chance that.
It was, but I mean, he's a young lad, but he does look really assured on the ball.
Mm.
And he's obviously, the other thing to say is that he's signed a new contract today.
Yes, that's very good, isn't it?
Which is very positive.
How novel is that? A 3-year deal with an option of a 4th.
I know that must be the first three-year deal since Sam Clucas.
Yeah. What was Bowen's contract when he signed that?
That could have been 3.
But there's not been many. If you can think of 2 possible cases where a player signed a 3-year deal.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
Even when we signed Alfie Jones, that was a year with the option of another.
Yeah, so that was positive. All right, it's early on in Greaves' career for City, but the signs look good. And I'm fully on board because I've got his name on the back of my shirt.
You went for him, did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
I'm all in now.
You're all in there. I was just going to talk about, talking to youngsters, I was going to talk about Callum Jones and actually going to throw in Billy Chadwick in there as well.
So we're moving on to Harrogate now.
So I was going to talk about the Harrogate game, because obviously you picked positives from that first game, and I kind of went with the other.
Yes.
I think Callum Jones must really be rated high to be given that captain's armband at 19. And
mate, you spoiled my number.
Do you want me to cut that bit out?
No. My number is number 19.
And we'll come back to that later on. Soz, mate.
Do you know, I had a big reveal and everything.
You can
I'm going
spoil
to
mine
cancel
if
the
you want.
elephant. No, you're okay.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, he's impressed me when he's played before this. I thought particularly against Leeds, if you think back to that, the way he took his penalty when we went to penalties just shows that it doesn't matter how old you are, the confidence that he can have and the ability he's got. I think he's going to be a big player for a second half of the season.
Yeah, I can see that. Maybe not even wait until the second half of the season. As we say, my number was 19 because captaining the club at 19 years of age is no mean feat. I've been trying to find out whether or not he is City's youngest ever captain to lead us out in a fixture.
I certainly can't think of another one off the top of my head, but it doesn't mean that there hasn't been one in the 70s and 80s before I started watching.
Or even I'm thinking
that.
maybe, 1920s and 30s, where things tended to be a little bit more random. But I couldn't find it. So if anyone can confirm or disprove that.
To know.
Yeah, I think he possibly is our youngest ever captain. And all right, you can say it's only the Harrogate game in the Papa John's mega trophy. But there is some significance to it because he was far from the most senior player in the team.
Yeah.
There were players out there with a lot more experience in the professional game than Callum Jones, but he captained the side. And I think there's something in that. I don't want to get too carried away, but I think there's definitely a big future for him there. And interestingly enough, he shares a birthday with me as well.
Does he?
Yeah, good so the best people are born on the 5th of April because there's me, Callum Jones, and Erland Johnson, formerly of Chelsea.
That's some trio.
Yeah, the Erland Johnson one I only remember because in the Premier League sticker album when I was a kid, they used to have the birthdays printed as their stats.
Right.
And I used to look over every sticker does anyone share a birthday with me? Because my brother shares a birthday with Pele.
Does he?
Yeah, same day as Pele. He got Pele and I got Erland Johnson.
Rob was always a very good footballer.
Well, yeah, better than me. Probably the comparison would be Pele and Erling Johnson if you were to compare the pair of us.
It's the equivalent.
Yeah, but
But the other thing about Jones I was going to say was that again, he stepped up to the penalty after he won it himself.
yeah, very composed as well, wasn't
Yeah.
he?
So I'm impressed with him, and that's adding more options to the midfield, which,
Not just midfield, but right back, because he was extremely composed.
he was. I mean, he's not a natural right back, clearly, but he certainly didn't put a foot wrong for me.
No, no, and I mean there were a couple of times where his passing from right back was fantastic. There was one in the first half, and I can't remember.
He put Eves in, didn't he? Or was
Yeah,
it over to Adelican where she should have scored with that
it
lob?
might have been a Delican, and he kind of bent it around from the right hand side into him on the run.
It reminded me of Fulham away last year with Leo da Silva doing that a little bit. When
I'd almost forgotten he existed.
I've forgotten who he put through. It might have been Bowen. Anyway, just like all the way up, went through and finished it, and it was just missing the finish.
It was Bowen, wasn't it? Was that?
I think it was Bowen. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were there when we went to Gainsborough Trinity. That was the only City game that we've been able to actually watch, like as spectators, like as fans in person. And I thought he did all right that night. But when he's come on and he's made a few first team appearances, I think when Scott and then him came on, I think we looked a completely different team. It didn't look like we were going to score because Eves was fucking useless up front. I know we're not I'm not picking him for my negative either, but I just thought that Adelican didn't have a great game.
No, he was in and out of it, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, there's something there.
There were a couple of opportunities with Adelican where, if his finishing was a bit better, he could have had a couple, couldn't he?
100%. But I think we looked more composed and likely to score more when Scott came on, particularly. But Chadwick as well added that extra dimension on the right.
There was space in the game, I think, and
there was. I think they were tiring. I just think the way that we were playing, it was only going to be us that won it in the end. But I mean,
for players like them as well, that space late on in the game was, where they will do their damage.
Yeah.
I agree with you that Eves, for me, didn't have a particularly good game.
No, that was his chance to me.
He seemed to be caught offside an awful lot, and it's almost his speciality.
One of the things that he did do well in the first half, which I did notice, and I thought when I was starting to watch it, I thought, hey, I tell you what, he's doing this a lot better. There was a ball played up to him, and it was like a 50-50. And how many times did we see Eves last year fucking elbow somebody in the head and go down? And it's just like, stop fucking giving fouls away, you muppet. He didn't do that, though. He controlled it really well and then laid it on for, I think it was Adelican who shot wide. But that was the sort of thing that he needed to do. And he was doing that to begin with in the game. And it just kind of never then went for him. It's just everything he was doing. His touch was like a touch of a trampoline. And it just didn't look composed or likely to get in any other dangerous positions at all. I was really disappointed in him because when he did come on against Bristol Rovers and he'd scored, I thought, right, we might be back in here. He knows this league. He did well for Gillingham. Let's get him back in. And he just, he's not, he was doing it against League 2 opposition. He should be doing better against Harrogate, shouldn't he?
I would hope so,
I was just disappointed, really.
Yeah. The thing with Eves, I really want him to do well for us because he seems like a likeable guy.
Yeah.
And he's not, I hate saying he's trying.
Yeah, it's a bit of a meth phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's not even trying.
Yeah. But you can see he is putting a lot into it.
Yeah.
He's desperate to do well.
He's almost trying too hard.
You want him to succeed.
Yeah.
But when he does score or he picks up, momentum in his play, he very rarely carries it into his next games.
Yeah.
So it's fits and starts, and he never gets into a groove.
It's just an odd one, really.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, maybe he's going to get a go this weekend with McGuinness being on international duty.
I reckon he would have to.
I pretty much think he'll have to do that. Else the other thing is that, this might go quite nicely into my bad.
Mhm.
So my bad is the Samuelson hype.
Yeah, you were telling me about this. I didn't see any of it, but
So it doesn't just boil down to one sort of like Twitter conversation I had with anybody, but I kind of put it down to David Burns as well when I was listening to him just like afterwards. Kind of made Samuelson sound out like he's had his best game in a City shirt and he was unplayable and all of this. And I do think that, particularly in the second half, Samuelson showed that he's got some quality and he created that first goal because he had the assist for it. And I thought on the ball he looked a lot better than I'd previously seen him. But I'm still not convinced by him.
did you not think it was his best game for City? I thought it was by a mile.
I think particularly if you look at the second half, I don't think I've seen him play better for City. But there are occasions where he does something really good, like he'll pull like a ball out the sky and control it and then play a really good ball. And you just sort of think, yeah, this is what you want to see. And there's another one where he'll just like try something and it's just like, what are you doing? And when he loses the ball is what irks me the most, I think. He just kind of stands there.
It's not the hardest working to recover it, is he?
Mate, I can't. I don't know if I'm just a typical City fan, but you know, whenever we've had players that proper kill themselves to try and get the ball back, that sort of thing.
We're going back to the Tom Eaves discussion, aren't we? You want players that try.
I want players that try and do things the right way and show the right attitude. I understand what you're saying about Eaves there. I absolutely.
No, I'm just pulling your leg.
I know, but you make a serious point in my eyes because I think you are just saying, "Oh, at least he tries," that sort of thing. And a good example of a player who didn't kind of overexert himself, I always think, from the last sort of 10 years was Matty Fryatt, because he knew when to run. Now, Matty Fryatt was a striker, and a lot of the time...
Robert Corrin used to get pelters for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a... I don't want to have a go at other people's understanding of football, but I think sometimes there is an overwhelming kind of thing of they need to run around like headless chickens to impress. And I'm not saying that Samuelson needs to do that.
There need to be David Milinkovic almost.
Oh, mate, he's still our player.
I know. That I have not forgotten. But what's funny is that when the couple of times where he did get on, I think there was one game, I can't remember who it was against, where he just charged about like a nutter.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember him just fucking cheesing it around everywhere. And you're just like, this guy's on fucking roids. What's going on here? Absolutely mental. But, I mean, I don't want to see that from Samuelson, but I want to see him be more arsed when he loses the ball. He's got this kind of almost arrogant thing about him where he kind of look really good going forward. And then he loses it and he just kind of goes, oh, well, just sort of shrugs. And then it's down to someone like whoever's playing in midfield to try and win it back. Because Batty's like trying to kill himself to get. I mean, Batty's not the fastest, but it then kind of relies on his teammates to then try and win it back. And you're like, at least show some willing to at least track the man, even if you don't make the challenge and you just get back in position.
Yeah, and that was one of the areas that Harrogate did quite well in, wasn't it? They were winning a lot of second ball in that midfield. Right.
So, again, Samuelson isn't my negative, and I do think there were lots of good things about his performance, particularly second half. But there seems to be this kind of loving all of a sudden of Samuelson, and all I will say is, why is he not in the first team more often? There must be a reason. And
yeah, I mean, with something like that, one swallow doesn't make a summer.
Yeah.
So where one player has had a good game and it's come out of the blue, you'd always kind of err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
You know, with predictions about what he's going to do. The thing with him is, and we had this discussion last week, he's still a young player.
Yeah.
So you want to see that he's got that ability in him. It's how we bring the best out of him now in every game, and he'll have a role to play in that himself. But I quite enjoyed watching him because there have been games where I've seen him and it's like, I don't know why we brought this kid to...
He looks better central, certainly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Don't put him out on the wing because he's fucking useless on that. But he's clearly not a winger, is he? He's better through the middle behind the striker.
Well, in that number 10 role, you can be a little bit more laconic
Yeah,
than you can out wide. Physically, it's more demanding of you,
he's very
particularly in a
slight
four
still.
three three where he is. But what I mean is, in terms of your aerobic capacity, you have to do a lot more work covering your fullback when you're wide in a
Yes.
4-3-3.
Yeah.
So that might not necessarily suit him.
Yeah, and I think someone like,
Um,
if you have Chadwick one side, Lewis Potter the other, whatever, those are players who just kill themselves to get back and have the fitness and the sort of physicality to do that. Emmanuel does that really well.
it's an area of Lewis Potter's game that he needs to develop for me. Is his defensive
I think
acumen.
he's shown this
He's
season that he's getting better at it. It's not the finished article by any
he
stretch,
is
but
he is, but he's still not
no,
there.
he's certainly better than Samuelson at doing that in that position, though.
Yeah, and physically he looks. We said this last week, didn't we? Physically he looks more suited to it than Samuelson does.
Yeah.
So to see him go through the middle, I can't think of too many games where Samuelson has played through the middle for us.
No.
All right, League Two opposition, and they've only just come up from non-league. But you can see what he might be capable of. There were flashes there.
Yeah.
Like you, I don't want to see people, getting carried away with it.
No.
Because
I mean, I don't want to
it's
bag
one
him.
game.
I don't want to say shit.
No.
I also don't want people lauding him as, oh, he's mint now, we have to play him. And it's like, well, let's just chill out a bit. Like, he's played against
Yeah, I mean,
Harrogate.
it's still George Honeyman's shirt anyway in that position, isn't it?
Exactly.
So,
You don't edge out Honey Esther for me.
if you need him, he's shown what he's capable of, and it's up to him to live up to that now.
Well, one of the things that I think McCann touched on his press conference today was that Honeyman and Elder are both on one more booking and they're suspended.
Yeah, I think we said that the other week, didn't we? Honeyman's been on 4.
Yeah, so
for a little bit.
Maybe they.
I was surprised he played him in the cup game for that reason.
Yeah, me too. But I mean, maybe tomorrow. Well, I suppose it will be tomorrow, and people listen to this. But on Saturday against Burton, maybe it will be a little bit more of a change team with, that in mind. And then we've got Grimsby straight after on the Tuesday. So, I know your bad was about bad news about the player, wasn't it, rather than the player himself?
Yeah, well, I couldn't think of too many negatives from the performances. Little gripes about Eves aside, and a couple of others. I didn't think Regan Slater had his best game. It took me about 20 minutes before I realised he was on the pitch.
Yeah, he wasn't brilliant, was
he? He was quiet. Thomas Meyer maybe worthy of a mention.
Thought he was
all right. His final ball was poor.
I thought he started really well, and I thought he looked dangerous. But like you say, his final ball let him down. There's something there.
Oh, definitely. And again, he's not had a lot of minutes, so to come in and ask him to
there was a big challenge
hit the ground running straight away.
And I think McCann knew he's going to get that, and he needs to maybe sort of toughen up a bit because he's maybe not used to the sort of rough and tumble of League 1 and 2 opposition.
Perhaps there's something to that.
Bad challenge on him, to be fair, because he proper turned him and the kid just proper cleaned him out. And he didn't lose his head after that, but I thought he kind of sort of was a bit more subdued after it. But maybe I don't know if I'm just making excuses for him, but
I didn't think he had a bad game for all that. I just think his final ball needed to be better.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But yeah, moving on to my negative, as I say, not too many in the games, but looking ahead to the game on Saturday against Burton Albion, the negative has to be the loss of Keane Lewis Potter.
Yeah.
Having to self-isolate for COVID concerns.
It was his girlfriend, wasn't it? Who
apparently so. Yeah.
Tested positive, so.
Yeah. So he can't train until Monday.
Yeah.
Which means we're missing him for Saturday's game. And given that he has been one of the more consistent goal threats for us so far this season, that could be a big loss.
Yeah.
I think when you text me about it earlier on, I said, well, Adelican will come in.
Yeah.
But it's not as straightforward as that, because as we've seen out of Adelican so far, he's not necessarily the most consistent player. He's quite up and down. And you wouldn't say that his display against Harrogate earned him the right to say I should be starting on Saturday in the league now,
No.
where everything, okay. So he will be a big miss, and he was one of the bright spots of the game against Swindon.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
So
gold.
to see him,
Just,
well, goal of the month it's been voted, hasn't
Yeah.
it? So to see him come out when he's, he seems to have found his feet at this level fairly well, and you want to see him playing every game, especially, we're already a little bit disrupted in the forward line with McGuinness playing for Northern Ireland in a ridiculous, 3 games that they've got booked in for this international break.
Yeah, I'm not really. I don't dislike international football, but why it's going on now, I'm a bit mystified.
I hate the number of international breaks that there are at this time of the season. Anyway,
yeah, I don't like the amount of breaks there are, but I also don't like the kind of inconsistency that there's 4 games postponed because of international call-ups for some teams. What's all that about?
It's been something that's irked me since the last time we were in League One and League Two, because we used to consistently lose Stuart Elliott for international breaks.
We never used to get him called off then.
No. And you could argue that nobody in the league at the moment who is losing players for international breaks has got a player of the calibre of Stuart Elliott.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not them that's legislated for that. It's the AFL, and as we know, they are hardly the most consistent.
Well, I think actually the AFC Wimbledon one, I think, is COVID. Right. But the other 3 are certainly down to international call-ups.
Yeah. So because of that, we're already a little bit disrupted, because we're missing Josh McGuinness, as we say. Probably Tom Eaves will come in. And then do you really want to see another player coming out of that? It leaves you with Wilkes as your only regular, and then there'd be the question, does McCann playing through the middle and play completely different wingers? Does James Scott come in, because I
think he should do.
Well, he's scored in under 23s game, hasn't he, recently, and scored against Harrogate. So you would argue that he's probably,
because he's trying to get back to full fitness now. I think it's probably a good game to play him.
Yeah, especially with Burton missing so many players.
I think he'll probably go Eaves, Wilkes one side, Scott the other, personally.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's
I can't begin to tell you what he'd do for Grimsby. Because you'd have to see if there are any injuries from the weekend and everything else. But I'd imagine Maya might play there again, and I think he'll play the squad players. I don't know if there's. I mean, there'll be a lot of 23s in there. Some of the things you can tell that there's often a 23s game on the Monday, so anyone who's not travelled with that squad will probably be playing.
Yeah, and I think everybody got that kind of feeling when they saw the 23 squad on Monday, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or Monday or Tuesday this week, and saw that it was very, very young.
That's right.
Then knew what was happening with that.
Yeah. It was mainly 18s, and they went and won anyway. They beat QPR 4-2.
Yeah. I love a result.
Yeah, there's some good players coming out of there. I've got Stu Wallace is a listener, but his son plays. He's Stu Wallace. It's Harry Wallace. He's a centre half, I think. So he was called up there, and then there's Harry Lovick. There's Oliver Green, Macaulay Snellgrove. There's loads of ones that they're in the second year of their scholarships. So by the end of this year, that's when they will decide whether they get pro contracts. So we'll keep an eye on that, because we'll have to see. Quite often there hasn't been an awful lot that have then gone to have pro contracts. Obviously, you've got people like Greavesy and Lewis Potter and people like that. But
it's got better in recent years.
So we'll have to see about that. But obviously, the future's good with that. You've got such depth of squad that plays 23s that are actually 18s, which is good. But obviously, the 2 negatives are, mine was Samuelson hype, and then yours was KLP being out. Okay, we'll look at the numbers. We were going to mention 19, but I kind of already ruined yours, didn't
Yeah, you did. So I've had to come up with another one very quickly.
So it shows how good you are that you come up with another one, because I already ruined the number
I'm
19.
brilliant. I'm so good.
Callum Jones at a very young age captaining the side.
This is why we've had 6,000 plays, because we can do so many numbers.
That's it. We just love them numbers.
Yeah.
My number, and I do have to make a thanks, because I had to get it off Twitter because I knew it was a long time, and Richard tipped me off that our previous guest, who a couple of times she's been on, actually, Bobby Hadgraff, she'd put how long it had been since Long had kept his clean sheet. That was 311, so that was my number.
That's a long time.
It was a very long time, and that's no pun either. But yeah, I was pleased for him, because
I was.
After all of that shite last year, your confidence is going to be low in it.
Oh, it had to be. You have to start doubting yourself a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, and I was like, I heard what McCann had said, and basically after the game, he'd said, "I'm pleased for George. Basically, he's kept a clean sheet. You know, it's something to build on, and he'll play against Harrogate." Now, I didn't realise that he'd had to isolate. That's why he wasn't in the squad.
Yeah, unfortunately, everything's okay there, isn't it? I think McCann confirmed.
I think it was his girlfriend. It was quite funny. I was listening to the thing that when they had the press conference, they quoted him as his wife was isolated. And when Matt Dean had said, was it his wife? McCann said, no, it was his girlfriend. So he was like, all right, it was news to him that he had a wife there.
News to his girlfriend
obviously
as well.
Everything's all right there, but that's why he was missing. I kind of did ask that question. I was like, why is Ingram in goal? I'm sure he was going to play long. But obviously they'd want to keep that in-house until they needed to talk about it.
I think it came out during the game, I think.
Or was it during the game? I didn't hear it on the thing. I watched the entire game, but I had my son on my shoulder. My month-old son now. So obviously volume wasn't a thing that I was trying to worry about. I was trying to keep him quiet. But obviously it was a shame that he couldn't play, but obviously understandable. But that's the longest, you're getting on for nearly a year without a clean sheet, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I think it was...
Even with all the interruptions and the fact he's lost his place in the team and what have you.
Yeah. I think the last clean sheet was the one where we played against Sheff Wednesday.
Yeah.
Will it be that? Because that was the last time that was when we were 8th. We were 8th in the championship. That works out, doesn't it?
Been it. Yeah.
It works out in times of days, I think. So obviously that was my number. I just thought that was worth a mention, because obviously lots of people bagged George Long last year, and they haven't necessarily this year, but Ingram's come in and done a really good job. So
yeah, well, he got a little bit of flack during the West Ham game as well, didn't he?
He did, but I mean, that annoyed me a little bit, because Ingram wouldn't have done that better. West Ham were always going to beat. I think that the whole thing about the COVID test before the game had a massive effect on the mentality of the players anyway.
God.
And the injury to Smallwood didn't help that game.
No.
I think that we were fucked either way with that game, to be honest. And I don't think Long... I mean, maybe a couple of things he could have done better, but I don't think you are... We've said this before, where it seems that Ingram's a better keeper because he didn't play. It's like, oh, well, Ingram would have done that. And I think it just irks me a little bit. So I don't think that flack was particularly deserved, but I was pleased for him that he got his clean sheet. And hopefully when he comes back into the squad, he will. I imagine he'd play against Grimsby if he's all right after the isolation period.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. Against Grimsby and Stevenage, that's probably going to be.
Yeah. But you've got a brand new number, so I've done mine, 311. And you?
Yeah, my second number of the pod is 15.
Right.
Because we've now gone 15 games, or 15 consecutive games in which we've scored.
Nice. That's a good start.
Yeah. So we've only had Sunderland on the first day of the season in the League Cup where we've been nilled.
Yeah. And obviously we won that on penalties anyway.
Yeah, still prefer it.
Nilled in 90 minutes.
Yeah. So I thought that was, obviously a good thing to see. We've had some performances in there where the goals have only been consolations. Lewis Potter, Swindon, Honeyman's at
Wilkes,
Fleetwood.
Wilkes at West Ham.
Yeah, yeah. So there's some that barely register,
Yeah,
don't really count to anything. But I think it is a sign that we'd become a little bit more potent in attack than the toothless tigers, if you excuse me a tabloidism.
yeah.
The next thing I'll be doing is I'll be using the word hull as a substitute for hell because that's so clever.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like I say, we had been a little bit impotent last season, and to see us turn that around a little bit is pleasing. Because we do look like we carry a threat more now. All right, in some games we've struggled for goals and only won games where we could have won by convincing margins, by a single goal. But couldn't have said that last year. We were struggling that badly that we couldn't even bank on getting a single one, could we?
Well, we went the last 4 games of the season without even fucking scoring, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
One thing that was interesting, just added to that, I think, if you compare to, obviously I'm not necessarily wanting to compare to last season all the time, but the 2 players that often either had a big hand in the goals last season was Bowen and Grzycki, right? And they weren't, they were wide players. They were the ones that scored most of the goals. It's interesting that this year, I know Wilkes can play through the middle, but it's Wilkes and Lewis Potter who seem to be getting the goals and they're playing out wide.
Yeah.
It's still not the central striker.
Although, with both of those players, how many of their goals have come from a wide position? They're not finishing from wide positions or anything like that. They're very much coming inside. Wilkes especially is we've said it before. He's leaving that right wing to Emmanuel, to do what he wants with effectively. And Wilkes is coming inside and playing in space that he finds because people aren't picking him up.
Yeah.
So you could say that Bowen did that as well to some extent, but.
I just thought it was interesting that we're kind of still relying on the same 2 number 9 strikers that we did last season. But I think McGuinness is having a decent season. I'm not going to. He scored 3 or 4, hasn't he? So he has got the score sheet. I know Reeves has only scored 1, but it still seems like, I don't know if you'd agree, but would you be looking at a central striker in the window when we get to January?
I think it has to be the priority.
Because that was the only really thing that I think that we're missing. Yeah. An out, Johnson Clark Harris type striker. He'd never come to us, but somebody like that who only needs 1 chance and he will score.
You're not going to get a striker that only needs 1 chance at this level, though. That's the thing. You're not. You just not. Strikers
not consistently. I think you're right on that. But Johnson Clark Harris had 1 chance against us and scored.
Yeah, but that's small sample size.
Greaves kept him quiet apart from the bit where he just switched off for 1 minute and then he nicked in and scored the equaliser, didn't he? It's that sort of striker up top. I just think.
Yeah, I take your point. We definitely need somebody who is a little bit more clinical than the 2.
How many chances did Eves have against Harrogate? He wasn't even getting into the. Who put the ball in the net but was offside? Was it Eves?
Might have been. Yeah, it might have been. Or was it a Delican?
It might have been a Delican, actually.
I think it was, because I remember their keeper protesting about it.
He used to play for us as well, Cracknell, didn't
he? Yeah, he had a good game.
Yeah. But, yeah, I just think that when it does come to January, I do think we maybe need, not a desperate need, but I think we're in need of another option up there.
It's the weakest area in the squad.
Because I think we've said before that McGuinness plays this game where he might not score, but actually he does a lot for the team.
Yeah.
But when you don't have him, and he's still going to be playing for Northern Ireland and all the internationals that are going to happen into the.
Yeah, he's done 77 minutes tonight before he's brought off. So did
they lose?
They're still playing.
Oh, they're still playing. I know they were 1-0 down Northern Ireland.
Second period of extra time. Right. Slovakia own goal in the 88th minute.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there's fans in tonight.
Is it in Slovakia?
No, it's in Northern Ireland.
How many are they allowed?
It's less than 2,000.
Oh, is it? At least they've had fans. That'll be a novel experience for them.
Yeah. It's only just over 1,000, 1,060.
Right. Well, that's what it would have been if we'd have had people against Crewe, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It was 1,000, wasn't it? So, well, it should have been. Obviously, it never materialised.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next thing we was just going to talk about was just going to look at the games coming up, mainly the Burton game. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I've seen a lot on Twitter today where people are saying, why is the game even on? I want the game to be on, can I just say?
Yeah, but you've got a vested interest because you're getting to go.
I know, but also...
You selfish bugger.
You shit. Also... Like the thing that really annoys me about it is how many positive tests has there been in the Premier League? And they go, oh, well, Thiago at Liverpool, oh, he's tested positive, so he's isolating away from the squad. The rest of the games carry on. It just seems to be this automatic thing in the AFL where they just go, oh, right, game cancelled then.
I think it's because there's greater testing in the Premier League, though. So, all right, they'll know.
But if they've done the most recent round of testing and there's only like sort of one player, then surely... it's a complicated thing. I understand that, but it just seems to be. I don't understand why you can't have the same style of testing for the Premier League as you would do for the EFL, because it's only elite football that's playing now. There's only the top 6 leagues or whatever.
It's money, isn't it?
But
it's very, very expensive.
If they don't.
It's very expensive. It's prohibitively expensive for teams in the AFL to be testing on the same basis as the Premier League.
I would suggest that it needs to be kind of filtered down from the top to the bottom.
It's not going to happen, is it? They're taking long enough to agree rescue packages now.
I do think that. I mean, I would like to know how much it costs per player to do the test.
I did see that somewhere. I don't have it.
I mean, is it a significant amount of money?
Yeah.
For
a round of testing for your squad, it's like I say, it's prohibitively expensive for clubs in League 1 and 2, particularly to absorb that cost.
Because do they have twice weekly testing in the Premier League?
Yeah.
And then do they have once every 2 weeks lower down that, or is it once every week?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's once every week.
Maybe it's kind of between 10 days and 14. I don't know. Because that's the incubation period. So if one has tested positive, then they'll come back after that. I don't know. It just seems a bit of an odd one, really. But I mean, obviously the game is on, but it's going to be. I mean, we'll be without Lewis Potter, but they'll be without 6 players, won't they?
Yeah.
And some of their staff as well, I think. So this has warning written all over it for me, because there when everyone goes, oh, we're going to smash Burton this week.
Yeah, typical City comes up. I mean,
exactly.
They're 23rd, won 1 game all season.
It's likely to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it?
It's a potential banana skin for me, this.
It just gives you those sweaty palms, just like anxiety.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Grant McCann said in his press conference that they're a decent footballing side, and they've always had that reputation.
Oh, they play on they don't play the Northampton way.
No,
they definitely try and play it. It's more akin to sort of Crewe, I think, where they do play through the thirds, and they'll have a lot of possession when you let them do that. But I'm not sure it'd be the same kind of thing where you've got 6 first teamers out. Maybe it's going to be under 23s, under 18s in. I don't know.
Could be. I mean, I can't imagine they've got the biggest squad in the world.
No.
Finished 12th last year, didn't they? So, they're no mugs.
No. They did all right. Certainly to finish there. And there's some difficult teams to beat in League One, as we know.
Yeah.
You're looking at teams like, I know we beat Fleetwood at the weekend, but they were a different proposition in the league, weren't they? And Swindon did us over because they just wanted it more than we did, and we're just going to have to.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You can't take anything for granted, and
No.
that Swindon game is case in point. Because Swindon, before they played us, had 6 points.
They had 1 in 5.
Yeah, which was the same. Well, exactly. You're almost identical situation as we've got this weekend.
They need to start absolutely on fire. Get a couple of goals in and really get their heads down, because if it gets to half time and it's still 0-0, or they've nicked one like Wimbledon could have done against us. You're in a bit
They
of a
need to
precarious
discover
position
that.
there.
They need to discover that ruthless streak that we've been
Yes.
talking about
Yeah,
over the
100%.
last few weeks. You
Yeah.
know, where they're taking chances, and we need to bury them.
Oh yeah.
I think it's and McCann said as much himself in his press conference that all right, we've responded in the cup competitions, but now we need to respond in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I'd agree with him. It's a big one. Kind of
Yeah,
need
it
to
is.
re-establish what we're about again.
This is
And the more that we have games or whenever we have games like Swindon, I should say,
yeah.
those questions are going to come back up, and it's up to the players to go back out there and respond to it and say, no, this is what we're about. They have to prove that for me.
Yeah. They've bounced back twice when they've been beaten, City, and you don't want to have to be another lesson where you've gone, right, let's go back to basics and what do we do wrong. This is the sort of game where you want them to be winning 4 or 5-0, but it's if they'll discover that ruthless streak again. If Wilkes starts the game on fire and bags early or assists early for somebody and the confidence levels are up, then I'd feel confident about us. But it's getting that first kind of foot on the rung of the ladder, isn't it, and then climbing up. It's not going to be an easy game.
It's not. There is reason to think that we can have joy though. Burton have conceded the most goals of anyone in the league, 21. So, there is reason to think that we can get at them.
Yeah, but there's no need for the. I think I've seen a lot of City fans on Twitter are like, well, we'll smash them now, and it's just like, well, no.
Yeah.
Like,
did
it's
last
not
week
foregone
teach you
conclusion. There's still a job to do.
Did the Swindon game teach you nothing?
Yes, exactly.
Did the first 45 minutes against Bristol Rovers teach you nothing?
Yeah, that first half, God. So hopefully it will be a positive thing that we're talking about at the weekend. I'm not a big fan of guessing lineups and all of that, but I assume he would go with the 3 that we've mentioned up front, because with McGuinness being injured on international duty.
What would you do about Greg Doherty? Would you keep Alfie Jones in, or do you think we have to get on the front foot and keep Doherty in? Because he's been a little bit below par in his last couple of games, hasn't he?
Yeah, I'd agree with you with that. I think he started the season really well.
Yeah,
but he was ever present, and I think he just had so many games played. I think
he's had that little break, I guess, hasn't he?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I'll be looking to see what he does.
I mean, I like both players, but I can't. I'd feel tight on Alfie Jones pulling him.
Well, I would, but then it's that horses for courses thing, isn't it? And you maybe play him in central midfield when you need to shore it up a little bit. But like we said, we need to get aggressively after this lot. Conceded the most goals in the league, and we want to see us put a marker down. So
I assume he will go with Smallwood, Doherty, Honeyman.
Yeah, that's what I think he'll do.
I'd hope Greaves keeps his place, but
think he will.
I can't see any reason to drop Greaves and Burke because they look our best centre-back partnership.
So far, yeah.
I assume Device will be on the bench, but Device for me hasn't done enough when he's played this season. I think at the start of the season he did okay, but I think Greaves is in better form, so play Greaves.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
He looks more assured on the ball. He's got, he's a young lad. He'd be loving his time in the first team, wants to make every second count, won't he? So I'd keep with him, yeah. The only thing you have to worry about is Elder and Honeyman on them yellow cards.
Yeah.
But I mean, following
I don't think you can worry about it. It's an inevitability that they will get suspended now.
Yeah,
so
at some point. I mean, I'd rather just see if Honeyman definitely, if we're winning 1-0, say, and Honeyman just like cynically hacks somebody down 89th minute, then I'll probably stand up and clap him. And I'll go, yeah, worth getting a ban for that. Quality, good lad. I just don't want to see any daft bookings.
That sounded like the description of a pretty daft booking.
No, that's one for the team, mate. That. If we're 1-0 up and he's cynically hacked somebody down, that's all right in my book.
Oh, so in your scenario, they're breaking on goal from
Yeah.
the halfway line or
Yeah.
something, and Honeyman pulls him back
Exactly.
to prevent a counter attack. Okay. You made it just sound like he was kicking somebody.
Oh no.
For
Well,
the fuck of
I,
it.
much as I like to see, City plays booting fuck out of people, I want it to be done in the right way. I want it to be like a point to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to see him like argue with the ref and boot the ball away or something. And it's just like, for fuck's sake, don't do that.
As long as there's some thought to it, that's
Yeah.
what you're saying. Okay.
Exactly.
I would agree with that then.
Obviously, the next one on Tuesday, I only want to mention it very briefly, but it's the first time we played Grimsby in a while.
Yes, yeah. Years and years. I think we've only played him in friendlies.
Yeah.
Remember Moses Odebajo got injured at Blundell Park, didn't he, in a pre-season friendly?
Yeah.
That
was so disappointing for him because he was fucking great that year.
Yeah.
He got a good year and then never really happened after that, did it?
Well, no, he was cropped. I never quite got the kind of hate that he got, the division, when he left.
Yeah.
His departure was symptomatic of wider ills at the football club.
Yeah.
Same with Robert Snodgrass, but people love a scapegoat.
Of course. It's always going
to be anyway, sorry, just to take it off topic again.
No, it's all right. It'll be an interesting one, that, because I think if we win, we go through to the last 32.
Yeah.
I mean,
drama.
I know. You say woo, but it's still. I mean, as much of a, very low down on the priority list that it is. It's still, if you get to the last kind of stages of a competition, you then want to take it seriously and do well, don't you? Or would you not lose any sleep if we didn't even get a result and didn't go through?
No. I couldn't give a monkeys, if I'm honest. If I'm completely honest, I don't care about the Papa John's trophy.
Even if we got to Wembley? If we got to the semis and then the finals, say, would you give an arse then?
I mean, I'd watch it if we were allowed to.
You've watched
if we were allowed to go.
League stage game, so I don't think there's been a game we've missed so far, has there?
If we were allowed to go, I'd go.
Yeah.
But I've watched us play at Wembley in an FA Cup final.
Yeah.
And
I understand the point you're going to get is that it's a little bit of a fall from grace.
Yeah. The final of the Papa John's trophy does not do much to move the needle.
I think it's just the sponsor that makes it sound a bit Mickey Mouse now.
No, it's not that. It's not that. I just think it's a stupid competition. It serves a purpose and it allows you to blood players and you can have a look at your squad, but
yeah,
it's not what excites me.
I'm not particularly, necessarily a fan of the, we played Leicester under 21s, and I don't think that's necessarily a positive at all. Because half the time the 23s have been with the first team squad, so you end up playing under 18 side, and how much do you really learn from that?
It was Wolves, wasn't it? Wolves in midweek. They had a player who had been signed for £32 million.
Yeah,
playing in the Papa John's trophy.
Yeah. It just makes a mockery about it a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a joke of a competition.
Well, it's like West Ham under 23s in it, and they'd play Sebastian Haller and Felipe Anderson or whatever as the two older players, and it's like, you're joking. They're worth like fucking 60 million quid, both of them, if you look at how much you paid for them.
Other people feel differently, but I think it's silly.
Yeah. We've all got our opinions.
Silly competition. Fuck off.
Do you hear that, EFL? So
yeah, Fabio Silva for Wolves, wasn't it?
Fabio Silva, yeah.
Got the under-21s into the knockout stages of the Papa John's Trophy with 2 goals against Doncaster.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, all right, 18 years old, but the amount of money that they paid for him,
he should be doing that, shouldn't he? Really? I mean,
it's daft. I'm not into it.
It does seem a little bit of a reserve league thing, but if it means you're seeing, young lads from Hull making a debut next week, then I'm all for it.
I enjoy that aspect of it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's just.
I think that's the only real positive to take out of it, isn't it?
Yeah, in terms of, my excitement level for the game against Grimsby and the proposition of going through to the round of 32.
I mean, that's still a lot in it.
Well, yeah, it's still a lot, but it's.
It's still a lot of games to play. Round of 32, round of 16, round of 8, so there's another 5 games at least. I don't know if they're two-legged. I hope not. Fucking hell.
You can only think that it's a competition that exists so that teams have got a reason to get fans in the ground, and that little bit extra revenue. Does it serve that purpose at the moment?
No, and I mean,
sure.
I don't really want to talk about fans getting back in at the minute because it's just too depressing to think about that, really, under current circumstances. But those are the games that I think would be the test ones, because they're usually localer teams. You're not travelling. There's a northern and southern divide, isn't there? So if we were playing Grimsby, then it's like consider it's your area, so it's much safer to do that if you were going to do home and away fans than it would be for, someone to travel up from, whether you're playing West Ham or something. It'd be nonsensical, if you get me.
Yeah.
But anyway, digress as usual.
Yeah.
Didn't know if there was any A or B you wanted to discuss.
No, I think we looked at it with Keane Lewis Potter's.
Yeah. Well, there was other thing I was going to say with Keane Lewis Potter's contract maybe next after Greaves's, but
you'd hope so.
I'd hope they tie him down as well, because it doesn't make sense to do one, not the other. But keep your fingers crossed about that. You don't want to be in the situation where we've had good young players go basically now at the end of the season when they've not managed to tie him down, and it's a loss of talent or a loss of money. So.
No, especially not with local lads who are as good as he is. No.
I mean, yeah. But I mean, both of them have been excellent so far this year, so both of them deserve what they should be getting. I'm not sure how much kind of wage rise and stuff it would be. I expect it would be a fair bit from a youth contract up to a proper professional one, but I'm all for it. As long as we keep all of them players and they want to be playing for City, then let's keep doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, look forward to Burton and then Grimsby. Grimsby probably less so for yourself, Rich. But
I'll watch it. Don't get me wrong. I'll watch the game, but it's just if we go out, we go out. If we go through, we go through.
Yeah.
It's not the priority this season.
No, definitely. Well,
nor should it be anyone's priority.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be anyone's priority in any season. But fans of other clubs might think, well, we haven't been to Wembley recently, so shut up.
Yeah, potentially, or ever in some clubs. So, well,
yeah, exactly. I'm sure it serves a purpose for other teams, but
yeah.
Anyway, I've banged on about it enough.
That's all right. It's good. Good chat as usual, mate.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
So, shall we do another one next week? Living up to this weekend and then Tuesday. So, Forza
Tigers.
Forza Tigers. Speak to you soon.
Yeah.
Take care.
Easy.
Okay, so in light of the game being in doubt, Grant, how hard or how easy is it to prepare your players mentally as well as physically for this one?
No different, really. We'll just prepare as the game is going ahead. We've had a good week up to now. Obviously, with the game on Tuesday night, the lads who didn't play have had a very good week in terms of training. So we'll just prepare as the game's on. As we stand today, like I say, I think the game's going to go ahead. Unless we hear otherwise, we'll just prepare as if it's going ahead.
Your players are professional, of course, but they are also human beings. Does it have an impact on preparation, this?
Not particularly. We'll prepare, like I say, the game's going to go ahead on Saturday, so we prepare for it. If it doesn't, then we'll adjust, and we'll prepare for Tuesday, which is Grimsby. So that's all we can do as footballers, managers, staff. We got to think the game's going to go ahead.
And have you needed to reiterate that to your players this morning?
Yes, they obviously asked questions this morning. They've obviously seen it on social media, and yesterday when it got announced. But the players are great. You know, we had a very good training session today. We're preparing as per normal for a tough game on Saturday.
When you were a player, you obviously found yourself in situations where games were in doubt. How did it affect you?
No different. We just. I think you get yourself in a zone. You just want to focus on that game. If for any reason today, tomorrow, Saturday morning, whatever it may be, if they tend to call the game off, then they call the game off. There's not much you can do about it. We've just got to react accordingly. We'll adjust our training schedule and we'll move on.
But you're expecting the game to go ahead. Have Burton indicated as much to you then now?
No. I mean, they've requested their tickets for Saturday's game. You know, their staff behind the scenes and chairman and directors and stuff. So we take that as if it could be going ahead.
Is there a degree of a grey area then in this? Because I think are they looking to the EFL to make a call on this?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know what situation they're in there in terms of how many people's infected or whatever. But we just want the game to go ahead. Obviously, we're desperate to play. We feel as if we're in a good place at the minute, and you know, it's another home game for us. We feel as if we've had a lot of games away from home this season already. I'm not sure how many, but in terms of the 15 games, 16 games we've had, I think quite a lot of them's been away. So we're looking forward to another game at home. What's
your illness and injury situation at the moment from Tuesday night?
George Long trained today, him and his girlfriend. I did say wife the other day, but it is his girlfriend. I'm jumping ahead of myself.
Used to him.
Yeah. So him and his girlfriend have tested negative. So George came back in training this morning. Unfortunately, Keane, Lewis Potter, his girlfriend has shown symptoms, and Keano has had to test, which is negative, but has to isolate now for 5 days. So he will miss the weekend's game. He'll be tested again on Friday or Saturday with the prospect of coming in to train next Monday with us.
How do you feel about losing Keane the weekend?
Disappointing because he's in good form. But it's an opportunity for someone else.
And on the subject of Keane, have you managed to agree that contract extension for him now?
Well, we haven't seen him. So we haven't seen him for a few days. So it's I think they're still working on the background.
Any other players having to self-isolate at the moment?
No, everybody else is fine, which is good. Like I say, our protocols are really strict and in place here, and you know, we're all following the guidelines of that, so we're fine at the minute.
What's it like for you to manage at this point when you don't know some days, from one day to the next, whether any players are going to drop like flies?
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's just the way it is at the minute, isn't it? I mean, it is difficult, but you gotta make sure you're ready for when it happens. And we feel as if we've got a good squad here, a strong squad. It would take a lot for us to probably call a game off because, you know, whether we had 10 to 12 players test positive or whatever it may be, we feel as if we've got a good under-23 squad that can fulfil the games as well. So that's where we are. Injuries?
Have you any fresh ones?
No, just Louis Coyle come back. Louis trained today, which is good. So no injuries as such. Everybody's fit, and it's nice to see a fit and available full strength group.
How will you use Louis this weekend? Will he be available this weekend? Or are you looking more to the Grimsby game still?
Yeah, he's available, of course. Might come too quickly for him. He's only just trained today. But yeah, it's great to have him back quicker than expected. He's worked very hard to get back, and he trained very well today. But we'll see how he is over the next couple of days.
No Josh McGuinness this weekend. Of course, he's on international duty. How do you view his absence?
It's a loss again, because for the way we play, Josh is an integral part to that and has been this season. I wish him good luck tonight, obviously, and the Green and White Army. I hope they get it done. Really, really like to see that, Northern Ireland qualify again. But we'll miss him. We'll miss him, of course. And again, it's another opportunity for someone else to come in and fill his shoes.
Martin Samuelsson had a good game the other night, didn't he? What are the chances of him starting this weekend?
He played well. He played well against Harrogate, and we were pleased with that. We're really, really pleased with his performance. he's obviously comes into the thinking. He gives us food for thought. You know, he in the positions Martin can play. We know he can play as a 9 or a 10 or an attacking number 8. We feel now working with him there's 3 best positions, more so than a wide one, because he likes that ball in the centre of the pitch where he can do his stuff. So I was really pleased with his performance the other night, and hopefully Martin can back that up now with sustain it a little bit, whether he starts the game or come off the bench or whatever it may be. We just hope he can produce that more often now.
Yeah, has that been his Achilles heel, do you feel? He's not been as consistent as perhaps you would like him to be?
That's probably more so we're strong in the positions that he plays. When we've played a 4-3-3, for example, we play with 2 number 8s, and George and Doc have been excellent. McGuinness has been very good. So the form of others sometimes dictates why players don't play. It's not about that player's form has dipped. It's just form of others, and that's probably the case of Martin.
With no Keane this weekend, who comes into your thinking to replace him in the starting lineup?
Good options. We've got good options. Obviously, Hacks and Tommy and Scotty. You know, I feel as if a really good option for us. And Billy Chadwick's another one who we think highly of in that position. So Malik, obviously. So we've got good options up there.
Let's talk about Callum Elder and George Honeyman. They're just a yellow card away, aren't they, from picking up a suspension? Do you need to speak to either of them about that going forward?
No, because I think there's not much point. If they get a yellow card, they get a yellow card. I wouldn't want to deteriorate their game by planting a seed into their head and telling them to be careful. I'll just tell them to play their normal game. If it comes, it comes. We just have to adapt to it.
Is a part of you though resigned to losing them between now and the cut-off on Boxing Day?
Possibly. I mean, there's a lot of games now, isn't there, between then and now. But again, you know, if it does happen, then somebody else gets an opportunity to show what they can do.
Grant, this game is the first league game since the defeat at Swindon. You've not lost back-to-back league games so far this season. Why do you feel you've been good at bouncing back?
Preparation, learning from our mistakes, making sure that we have the desire to bounce back and get a positive result. You know, the 2 cup games, it was a great response from the Swindon game. That Swindon game, although I wouldn't make it as an excuse, I think the travel to Bristol and back and the travel to Swindon and back maybe took its toll on the group, particularly in the second half where we looked very leggy. So it's always been nice this week to not play some of the lads who's played a lot of games, you know, and gives the others a chance. And almost last week we did something similar leading into the game against Fleetwood where we got the balance of rest and work right. We've done it again this week, and hopefully we can go and make sure that we respond from that Swindon defeat in the league now, you know, and that will be key for us.
What faith do you have in your players that you'll be able to bounce back again then?
We've got a good group. We've got a very good group of players, and they're hungry and determined to get back on a winning trail in the league, because that's our bread and butter.
Burton haven't won in 12 in all competitions. Their only league win came back in September. Tell me why you think they won't be pushovers in this game.
I think performance-wise, they probably haven't got the results in terms of what they've shown. I think they've got good energy in midfield. I think they can run, they can get about people in there. They've got an experienced old head in there, and in Quinn, who used to play for Hull. And in the forward areas of the pitch, they've got people that can hurt you, you know, and people like Aikens and Hemmings, and particularly those 2. Niall Ennis is a boy that scored a few goals last year at Doncaster. They've got people that can hurt you, and if you're not right, then you know you can get beat. There's no question about it. So it's no easy game for us. This is a tough game. We know exactly what they're about, but it's important that we make sure we get our own game right, and we show what we've shown over the last couple of games, particularly the 2 cup games.
From Swindon, what do you feel you need to address?
I think we have addressed it. I think we addressed it in the 2 games. You know, we've just shown that against Fleetwood and Harrogate. We were defensively sound. We won 2-0 in both games. Our discipline, our shape, our organisation was good, and we punished both of them at the other end. So I think we showed it.
Just a final one from me. Grimsby on Tuesday. The winners will advance through to the knockout stages of the EFL Trophy. I'm just asking this now because we won't get a chance to ask this ahead of the game. How do you see this game on Tuesday night?
We want to win. We'd like to win the game. We'd like to get through. I think it's a competition that splits people's opinion of it. For me, I think it's an opportunity to give more minutes into players' legs. It's an opportunity, if you can go far in the competition and get to the final, end up at Wembley. I said after the game against Harrogate, it doesn't come along very often that you get a chance to play at Wembley, and I was expressing that to the players the other night against Harrogate. I was lucky and fortunate enough to play there twice in both of them in this competition, and it's a great experience. And hopefully by then, when that game come around, the fans will be back as well. That's what we're all hoping and praying. So we'd like to win the game, we'd like to progress, and then we'll take it from there.
It's nicely poised though, isn't it, for both clubs, with both teams needing ready to win? I mean, I know I think you can qualify, can't you, if you get the point?
Yeah, I think a point does us, but we don't go into games trying to take a point. We'll go and try and win the game. I'm sure Grimsby will be saying the same. It's an opportunity for them to progress. Obviously, there's some financial reward that comes with it as well. For a club like Grimsby, it's big for them, but it's also big for us. So it'll be a good game, and we'll hopefully we can get the result.
Wish you well this weekend, Grant. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.